peace must be our goal and our guide. And all that we strive for as a human family, dignity and hope, progress and prosperity, depends on peace. But peace depends on us.
It is ridiculous and it is against the laws of nature that we can have somebody sitting pretty who takes home more money than the credible entrepreneur who is doing actual production of goods and services.
We always say it as it is. It is only in this country that when a thief is arrested, you hear elders from their tribe saying, "He is our son and he is our thief."
If you are deviant
Yes.
and I call you leader,
Yes.
probably you are already a leader, but you are leading in the wrong direction.
We want to see the role of the youth
Yeah.
in the security,
Yes.
governance,
Yes.
and development.
The youth that I meet and work with here, you know, we call them the millennials and X's and Y's, this and that. They don't necessarily want to live like their fathers and grandfathers,
Yes.
do business like their fathers and grandfathers. They're more independent, they're better educated, and they're the ones that are making everything move in this region.
We look at the issues, we talk about issues that impact people's lives in Africa. The African peoples themselves continue to cheer bad leaders, and because they cheer them on, they continue to be misled.
Let me ask you, doctor, would you rather be somebody who does not enjoy so much freedom but you are rich?
Yes.
Or you'd rather be poor who you are actually imprisoned by the poverty itself?
My goal is not to come here and say, I want the majority ownership, I want to own this, I want to own that, I want to do this. My goal is we all make money and we're all happy, and I help build a business here.
Punchline is for Africa, with Africa, from Africa.
Fellow Africans, every time we are challenged on matters of importance, there is always a path for redemption. The only thing that Kenya needs at the moment is redemption. It's a redemption strategy that can create a coexistence of all the people, all the tribes, all regions, and all shades of opinions. Challenges come at an hour where a country is on a test. Test runs are always the most crucial points. That's where experiments collapse. Kenya is not an experiment. Kenya is a nation that has existed for 56 years. The challenges, therefore, should not make us hate each other. These challenges should unite us, should unite the people of Kenya to push forward an agenda, to follow their president, President Uhuru Kenyatta, in delivering the agenda for a better Kenya. A better Kenya will produce a better East Africa. A better East Africa will produce a better Africa. The challenges, the obstacles that come amongst us are many, but we can overcome them through discussion, a wider range of discussion, wider disagreements to agree and disagree, to agree again and disagree to disagree. But we should not form clubs, units, militias, hatred of that nature that can take us to the history. Germany today is Germany because It doesn't want to go to the path of the history. Germany goes to the path of development. Over 70 years ago, Germany was at war with the entire world. Today, it is on the path of resolving some of the problems that come. I want us to stand in the place of Germany and look forward and backwards. See what we can do here, but not yearn for what is in Rome. What is in Rome is safeguarded. But in Sicily, which is Kenya, we need to build a foundation for the younger generation that we are going to live here today. The many who have no employment, the poverty, the ignorance, the diseases that kill the people of Africa. We need to find a modium of operation. Modus operandi. The only modus operandi on this is a united, peaceful Kenya. A Kenya united by values of respect and adherence to the rule of law. A Kenya without schemes of elimination or fiction of elimination or murders written by themselves. A Kenya without any hatred against the president. A Kenya that supports the constitutional roots that the 2010 constitution of yours brought. That is how Africa will rise and shine again. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Welcome back to Punchline Africa TV, broadcasting all the way from Nairobi, the Republic of Kenya. Viewers, wherever you are in Africa, this is our Plan African station, a station that looks at African issues, what ails Africa, what kills Africa. How can we resolve our own problems without inviting any other person to come to this continent to bring us more headache? Do we have a lot of headache? Do we have progress? This time is Kenya. In Kenya, President Uhuru Kenyatta has brought what we call a transformational agenda, an agenda that is going to take shape, that can bring Kenya by 2022 to world-class economy, to world-class health people, a universal health care, to world-class food security, to world-class affordable housing, and to increasing jobs through manufacturing and construction of houses. President Uhuru Kenyatta has stated that this is the most important aspect of his legacy, that he would like to leave a legacy in Kenya by having these items tackled. You in the county, wherever you are in this country, those representatives of ours, of the ones that are in those counties, one by one, wherever you were, in Kakamega, in Bungoma, in Turkana, in Moyale, in Mosabit, in Mandera, in Coast, most of you know what we want to be done. We want to find out exactly, and the other places, Taveta, Migori, Siaya, Kisumu, Eldoret, which is North UG, which is also Narok. We want to know what is supposed to be done. What can be done to change the lives of the people of those counties and other counties in Kenya? What can we do to change, to help the governors, the local people, the citizens? What can we do to improve our housing? What can we do to improve our food security, to have enough food such that the food can never be a problem to Africa at all? Year in, year out, or year out, year in, we are begging for donors to bring us relief food. Yet we have arable land that is underutilized. Why can't we look at the arable land and start changing methods of farming, methods, tools? How much do we need to change our food production? Britain is a quarter of this country. But Britain has enough food to keep itself for over 200 to 400 years. Our food storage, do we need to look at it? Our food preservation, do we need to look at it? To improve food security, you need to talk about all these things. And that's why President Uhuru Kenyatta has said, let's talk about them. Let's tackle them now. So that by 2022, we leave a legacy for others who will take politically the train and the leadership of this country, going on that route. Instead, what has happened in Kenya, people are not thinking of the Agenda 4. Is it because the Big 4 action plan, people don't know what they are supposed to do? Is it because the research is not enough? What is the value that you can get out of a good house? What is the value that you can get if the industry is near your home? How many of us think of creating some small cottage industries, fishing, ponds, creating a simple pond and getting fish that will grow in the pond? How many of us can think of good health care? How can we change our health care system in Kenya? How can it be changed? Can it be changed by merely all the time saying, this is what we want? Or can it be done in a different way? To think, to bring in such that every 50 to 100,000 people have got a doctor and a GP who can have a referral system to refer them to diseases that cannot be treated in those small clinics or small GPs, which are many hospitals. The onus is upon us, upon the people of Kenya, wherever they are, with the help of any other people. Our role as a television station and the media is to publicize these initiatives of the president. We publicize the media, tell it as it is, writing in digital platform, writing on our Facebook. Our numbers, several representatives all over the whole counties are busy as we talk, writing and talking about the Big 4. They are busy engaging in the Big 4 activities to make sure that advocacy, campaign, publicity, to make sure that people are aware. We talk about food security. You can't have food security when you are cutting down all the trees. There will be no water. You can't have food security when you don't know whether there is water or this water is alkaline. When you see rhinos being transferred from place where water was not alkaline and taken to alkaline infested waters and they die, there is something wrong with the systems. So we need to come and talk about these things. We need to engage the citizens for them to choose what is available and what they want in their counties. Punchline Africa TV, therefore, engages the people every morning until the next coming several months. We shall be engaging people. we shall be talking about this big four. I now invite you to a clip that talks about the big four of the Jubilee administration. What can we do, and what can we do as citizens of Africa to help ourselves so that we don't get into a quagmire state that other countries find when they call for food, when they call for housing, when you see in South Africa, in Kenya, the slums mushrooming, Gorogocho, in Madare, in all these places. What can we do to elevate the lives of the people in those slum-affected areas? I invite you to the clip prepared by Punchline Africa TV.
It is ridiculous and it is against the laws of nature that we can have somebody sitting pretty who takes home more money than the credible entrepreneur who is doing actual production of goods and services.
We always say it as it is. It is only in this country that when a thief is arrested, you hear elders from their tribe saying, "He is our son and he is our thief."
If you are
Yes.
deviant and I call you leader, probably you are already a leader, but you are leading in the wrong direction.
We want to see the role of the youth
Yeah.
in the security,
Yes.
governance,
Yes.
and development.
The youth that I meet and work with here, you know, we call them the millennials and X's and Y's, this and that. They don't necessarily want to live like their fathers and grandfathers, do business like their fathers and grandfathers. They're more independent, they're better educated, and they're the ones that are making everything move in this region.
We look at the issues, we talk about issues that impact people's lives in Africa. The African peoples themselves continue to cheer bad leaders, and because they cheer them on, they continue to be misled.
Let me ask you, doctor, would you rather be somebody who does not enjoy so much freedom but you are rich?
Yes.
Or you'd rather be poor who you are actually imprisoned by the poverty itself?
My goal is not to come here and say, I want the majority ownership, I want to own this, I want to own that, I want to do this. My goal is we all make money and we're all happy, and I help build a big business here.
Punchline is for Africa, with Africa, from Africa.
I want to call upon the people of Abazonia today, wherever you are in the diaspora in Abazonia itself, that in a struggle you are bound to have divisions. But divisions should not divert you from the main focus, the main challenge. We have struggled to expose the happenings, the human rights abuses in Abazonia. The army has killed hundreds and hundreds of thousands, burnt houses of people, internet was cut off, schools were closed, dispensaries, hospitals were burnt down. Abazonians should not be intimidated by Paul Robia. It is not upon the leaders of Abazonia, because I am not from Abazonia. But I've played a pivotal role in making sure that I loud out the voices, I put out the call, I call upon AU, EU, United Nations, Human Rights Watch, Amnesty International, Many of them have listened to some of the things that I say here, and they have come at last. America, United States of America, is slowly moving towards giving the Amazonian people the dignity they deserve. I therefore call upon the leaders and the leadership of the Amazonian people to unite for a purpose. The unity of purpose is paramount, as opposed to disunity, which has nothing but only produces ego that we have seen in South Sudan. What has killed South Sudan is not because they don't have the money, the minerals, the resources. Is ego between Riek Machar and Salva Kiir. We would not like to see that ego come to the people of Amazonia, the leadership of Amazonia. I call upon Samuel Sako, Akanga, Miran, and Eko to unite and talk with one voice on international scene that will bring about the peace, the tranquility that you yearn for since 1961, when the resolution 1608 was abandoned by the United Nations General Assembly and Amazonia was annexed by the Cameroon government by then. I call upon you, my brothers, to pick up the unity call and free your people without disintegration. Thank you. Good morning, viewers. Welcome to Punchline Africa TV, broadcasting all the way from the Republic of Kenya in Mombasa. And in Harare, we cross over to Harare, the Republic of Zimbabwe. We shall bring you clips from our correspondent, embedded correspondent live in the Hararean capital. And then we shall move on. Welcome to this new setting up. Right now in the Republic of Zimbabwe, we have our embedded journalists, investigative journalists, right in Harare. They are watching the situation. It's a running battle between the police and the demonstrators, whom Mr. Chamisa did not tell they should not come after the government banned the demonstrations that are taking place since morning. Today, our show is mainly the Good Morning Show. We are back with our Good Morning Show live. From these, we shall be using satellites right from Berlin, and a satellite right from Harare, and a satellite right from Kenya. And later on in the month, next month, we shall have a live link from London, linked to Sky News in London, and we shall be able to broadcast live across the continent and the continents of the world. Thank you very much, viewers. It looks like it is a good day in Kenya. It is a good, sunny, hot situation down in the parts of Kenya. Some places are cold. The higher you go, the cooler it becomes. But the lower you go, the hotter it becomes. Therefore, thank you very much. This is the only Pan-African station that talks Pan-Africanism, that talks about Pan-Africanism, that enjoys Pan-Africanism, that talks about Africa, that ails, what ails Africa? What kills Africa? That is it. That is it. We look at how things have been done in Africa, why we have failed as Africans, why we have become people as a laughing stock, despite the act that we have resources. George Soros comes to find our own people to destroy us. But back in Kenya, we have the legacy. The legacy of President Uhuru Muigai Kenyatta. That legacy of His Excellency the President. We shall always talk about it as long as I'm on planet Earth. As long as I live, I will say it and say it and say it again until we deliver a legacy to the people of Kenya. 2.5 years left. There is need. 2.5 years left. There is fatigue evaluation. A fatigue evaluation is needed. There is need for fatigue evaluation. Have we done very well? How far have we gone? What are the challenges? What are the obstacles? Do we have obstacles that are making it impossible for the legacy to operate? Shall we leave a name? What name shall we leave? What will the old generation, the new generation, the middle class generation, those growing, the grandchildren, that legacy must be there. Two things stand out in the legacy. One, unity. Unity of purpose. I am not a Kenyan, but I'm interested in the unity of African countries. I'm interested in the unity of purpose. The unity that brings Kenyans together. A strategy that can bring Kenya together. A strategy that can make sure that Kenya does not fight. Every election, every 5 years, there is a cycle of violence. The cycle of violence of people dying, the cycle of violence of people extending mortuary space for bodies to come must end. It must end with us talking about what makes it happen. What makes it happen is what President Uhuru Kenyatta and the former Prime Minister Raila Amolo Odinga decided to do, a handshake. The running battles you see in Zimbabwe today, this morning, on your television, Al Jazeera, CNN, these amorphous neo-colonial fascist televisions that always depict Africa as a continent that is dying, as a continent that has a problem. These are the things that we must reject. And we shall reject them. How shall we reject them? We shall reject them through our own stand, through our own initiative as Africans. We shall reject them by making Africa stronger. We shall reject them by making our media, our own format of media. How do we talk to our people? Which languages do we use? That is what President Uhuru Muigai Kenyatta is doing for this country. He wants a legacy. He wants a unity of purpose. He wants to leave a legacy of a united Kenya. A Kenya united by values of no boundaries of ethnicity, no tribalism, no patronage, but a united country with a single-minded approach of doing things in government. A country united on the basis of development. A country united on the basis of no ethnicity, no tribalism, no politics of underhand, proportional representation of the people of Kenya is the most important thing that Kenyatta wants to leave behind. A legacy that has something to be remembered. Viewers, in this legacy, on this journey, we have had obstacles. We have seen obstacles, challenges, but there are successes. For example, the success of unity, the holding tranquility that we see in Kenya today, is the tranquility that was brought because of a handshake. There are those who don't want to speak about this frankly, but I will speak frankly because I stand in the middle of the mix of it. From 2010 to today, I have been a part and a parcel of a fight to bring about these forms, remove people from jail, remove people from going to life imprisonment. I have a stake, and that stake must be my stake. And therefore, as an elder, I stand in the middle. And I say the only way to solve these problems without further bloodshed must be unite, so that in the next election finds Kenyans, united people, ready to work together, ready to move together, ready to enjoy the fruits of freedom of the people of Kenya that was brought by the founding fathers of Pan-Africanism. That is my stand. There is nothing that will sway me, no intimidation, no words of threatening me, no calling me names of being a Ugandan or this or that or fat or what. I will speak about it all time. I will defend Uhuru Muigai Kenyatta at all costs, whether in Kenya or outside Kenya or international waters. I will defend this country. It is part and a parcel of an African example that a nation is working. It is part and a parcel of an African democracy, that there is room for democracy, that there is a nation working somewhere in Kenya, in Africa. This is Kenya, and I will not let you down on my defense for this East African state. Above all, I will defend the African integration. And African integration says that East Africa will be integrated. There will be no boundaries. Who formed the boundaries? Who created the boundaries? It is Bismarck, 1884. We didn't know where we should belong and not belong. We walked all the way from our mountains of Elgon up to Mumias, up to Masai Land, up to Kilimanjaro, up to Mount Kenya. That's why we, the Kikuyus of Kenya, have a lining with the Baganda of Uganda and the other tribes in Buganda, in Uganda. The Kusebens have the feelings of the other tribes in Kalenjin. The Luos have the feelings of the tribes in northern Uganda. We have one destiny, an African destiny, an African dream. That is my position. Viewers, coming back to the level of the discussion, the challenges that the legacy faces, corruption. Corruption has been at the forefront. A bad judiciary has been at the forefront. A dangerous judiciary that does not look at the aspects of the people, what the government can do and not do. Those are obstacles that we must fight. For President Uhuru Kenyatta to have this legacy, he must have the judiciary swept, cleaned, and that is our topical issue of today's subject after the African news headlines. I will cross over now after talking about the legacy successes. We see a lot of successes, infrastructure, the big four. Things are working. Time might not be on our side. Time might not be the essence for the president to see which particular legacy, which particular project he wants to leave. But he wants, above all, to leave a legacy, a Kenya united, a united Kenya without borders of tribalism, of color, of language. Where do you come from? Let's be united and talk the same language of Kiswahili. Let's talk the same language like Tanzanians do. Let's talk the same language like Ugandans do. One of the things that you cannot do in my country, where I was born some 60 years ago and above, is you cannot point at me in public when the police are hearing or anybody is hearing and call me by my tribe. Ugandan police will take you down. You will serve 3 months in jail for having called me a Mugisu, for having called me a Munyankole, for having called me a Rwandese, for having called me a Luo. In my country, these are the things that are prohibited. And most of the things that have caused Africa a problem, what are they? Conflicts come from calling each other tribes. Look at what Biya is doing. President Biya is killing people in Amazonia. He's killing people in Cameroon because he called them, those Cameroonians, those English-speaking people. When you start pointing fingers at people, we kill each other. That is not what the President of the Republic of Kenya wants. He wants a united Africa, a united Kenya, Kenya without boundaries, a Kenya unified by its own diversity. That is the point that we want to make. Viewers, we now want to cross over to Harare, and we want to get our correspondents. And one of the clips that we have seen here that have been sent live from the streets of Harare by our correspondents who are actually in Zimbabwe, as we shall see right now. These are some of them, and our teams can now authoritatively play them for you. That is the latest production. That is the latest. But before we do that, that is what is right now in Harare, how Harare looks like just right now. Let's do the African news after the break, but leave that clip playing from the Republic of Zimbabwe right now. You got it? very much, viewers. Welcome back to Punchline Africa TV, live from Harare, the capital city of broadcasting with our correspondent. The pictures that you have just seen are pictures that are on the streets of the Republic of Zimbabwe. The police has managed to contain the situation. Everybody is being told to go about with their own work. But President Mnangagwa presents new coup-proofing measures. President Emerson Mnangagwa, yesterday under siege in the face of the worsening economic hardships, is fueling a ground-well social discontent. Is a coup-proofing his regime by giving security forces the prevention. He has said he has got to talk to the security. The security of Zimbabwe must be safeguarded. Most of us, gentlemen, we think that Zimbabwe belongs to only Zimbabweans. Zimbabwe was made out of us, we Africans. We paid a price for the liberation of Zimbabwe. We grew up paying taxes that were being cut to be for the liberation of Tanzania, South Africa, Zimbabwe, Mozambique, Angola, Namibia, and many other states. We have done so. Most of the Africa that we know did that. So when Zimbabweans see us talk about their country, they should not be annoyed. We are only trying to tell you that we have a stake in that country. That stake must be a proper country, a country run not by violence, a country not run by demonstrations, not engagement on the streets, but a country that goes back to the streets, goes back to work, a country that can work and produce. There is no need of having a very difficult situation with you people without telling the truth about the engagement of the government. Why can't Chamisa engage the government? Elsewhere in Nigeria, a Nigerian woman was arrested after beating a boy and locking him in a dog cage. A woman who was videotaped, whose video has gone viral, was arrested and after beating a 10-year-old boy before locking him in a dog cage, has been arrested in Lagos, a police spokesman told us today. The 24-year-old woman who has not been publicly named by authorities due to reasons of investigations. Elsewhere in Africa, around why Nigerians are not enjoying regular power supply, Osibanjo reveals. It is now revealed that it is worse doing business in Nigeria because there is no power. Power cuts in Nigeria have become a problem, and we are facing quite a lot of difficulties, challenges in actually even transmitting some of this. It shows how far the government has gone. It has wasted money on a lot of resources. When you hear of power cut in Nigeria, where are you in Africa? Where do you stand? What about countries that don't have the money? Nigeria has money. It produces fuel, oil. Crude oil is number 3 in the world in production of crude oil. But what has happened to this country? It has been looted and the money is not pumping back to the projects. Elsewhere in Africa, in Tanzania, sympathy to Tanzanian over-fuel tanker explosion. Very many people, millions and millions of Africans, millions are across the world, they have sent in quite a lot of sympathy and messages about the fuel tanker. Democratic Republic of Congo. It is a very sad story for Democratic Republic of Congo, which has now come back to haunt us. Over 1,900 people have been killed. Over 3,300 people have been kidnapped by rebel groups that are now very active in Eastern Kivu provinces. This Congo is returning to a situation where you see very many things are happening. Very many good things had started. Tshisekedi had come to power. We thought this insurgency could be crushed but we see a resurgence, a reemerging of insurgents in Eastern Congo. We see people killing each other. Who is killing people? Who is killing people in Eastern Congo? Who is behind the killings? What countries are funding these killings? This is one of the topics that we shall be dealing with next week at length. When we pick our satellite, will be stationed right in Kinshasa, where we shall go and pick what is on the ground. And don't tell us how we pick it. We use the satellite to pick you, whatever we are picking right now. Democratic Republic of Congo, armed groups in Democratic Republic of Congo have killed 1,900 people, despite the country president saying he will crash and finish this insurgency. Part of the problem of Congo is we make mistakes. It's just like mistakes made in Zimbabwe. The American government has put sanctions. The American ambassador is busy visiting, activists who have actually been injured on one side. But the American ambassador in Zimbabwe does not also visit the ZANU-PF people who are being killed, who are being beaten up, who have been beaten up by their opponents. This is where Africa goes wrong, where these diplomats in the US come here to make judgment instead of helping us. We had one called Rainberger in Nairobi. He created us the ICC. So be careful, my brothers in Zimbabwe. You might be having an ICC coming on your way. Let's go back to our headlines. In Democratic Republic of Congo, now we have the very burning issue of Libya. The Libyan authorities have actually this morning, missile strikes hold traffic at Libya's Mitiga airport. We know we have a situation here on our hands, and it has never have talked and given up. But I will not give up. I'll continue to talk. Now, let's come back to Libya. What created Africa to look like it is? What made Libya look as it is? The same forces that are pressurizing for Zimbabwe to break down. The same forces that pressurized Sudan to break down. The same forces that pressurized, but on the contrary, these forces don't look at any other organization up across Africa at all. All what they are looking at is very simple, very difficult to understand, very difficult to stand up. They have armed a general, given him a passport, American passport. He's an American citizen, yet he's a terrorist, well known by everybody that Khalifa Haftar is a terrorist. But Americans have given him a passport to go and kill people from Benghazi to Tripoli. A man has moved all that distance. He has moved his troops into Tripoli, killing fellow Libyans. This is a story that we don't want to discuss today, but we shall look at it. It's one of the African news headlines. The last thing on Uganda, on African news, Uganda record of 1.4 million malaria cases since June. Uganda said on Wednesday it had recorded 40% of surge in malaria incidences that have attributed to increase of range of factors, including the influx of refugees, climate change, and decline in the use of protective nets. I don't know how the influx of refugees can increase malaria, but malaria can be treated by telling and teaching people how to prevent malaria, not to have ponds, not to have standing water, not to have dirty water standing somewhere, because these mosquitoes breed around those areas. So Uganda is at it again with 1.4 million increase, a surge from minimum. Malaria in most countries in Africa now is the thing of the past. And I'm shocked that we in Uganda still have malaria on our programs. Thank you very much, viewers. We now take another break, and in this break we shall bring quite a number of things that lead us to the judiciary. First, it is a very interesting day, but one thing caught my eye this morning, and I want to read along with the Treasury. The Attorney General had asked the court to give him access to the multimillionaire Humphrey Kariuki for him to seize the property so that it is not taken away. And the court rejected the same. So is our judiciary a source of the misery in Africa? So wherever you were in Lagos, wherever you were in Kenya, in Uganda, talk to me. How does the Treasury treat you in your country? How do they behave? What do they do? I have talked about the Kenyan judiciary. And this morning, I did say a lot about the Kenyan judiciary on KBC, which is the National Broadcasting Corporation. I've said that as long as you have the Chief Justice and the Deputy Chief Justice, Mwiru, as the head of the judiciary of Kenya, please forget about judiciary in Kenya. It will not work. It might not work. Whether we go to heaven or hell or Mars or Jupiter, it won't work. If those two people are there, it will not work. The headlines in Kenya very soon. There is one thing of stupidity in this Africa, and I find it very naive in Africa. The government wants to bring CCTV cameras to watch in places, public places. Amnesty International, Mr. Houghton, you are my friend. In Kampala, the rate of kidnaps has gone down in the city, suburbs, and around the city because people used to do carjacking. But when President Museveni introduced, after copying the ministry at the government of Kenya, and we said, bring in the CCTV to see the monitoring of cars, to see how people are acting. That theft in Kenya has gone down. The theft in Uganda equally has gone down. Now, CCTV cameras to soon watch all public places. Yes, what is wrong with that? Then Amnesty International, another busybody, a country, an institution of the courts of today. They want to bring things. A Kuro court was given a very good chance. And I want to speak here because I've reached the subject of the judiciary in Kenya. A Kuro court was given a chance to make a constitution for the people of Kenya. A Kuro court was the CEO of the constitutional making. He had an input. He saw the constitution before it was published. But he hooked us, and he hooked many Kenyans. Millions of you Kenyans are paying the price today because of a court. He's the same man who left the gaps. He's the same constitutional lawyer, a product of George Soros' schools, a product of for the foundations, a product that always looks at Africa and plays with the African minds. Africans we are used to be being played about. Today, when you look at this constitution, It should have been done. People shouted after this constitution in 2010. But the Ekuro Court was busy saying, let's pass it now, let it go. Because he knew there was some time to come. After 10 years, he would also be on the top and use it as a populist to engage himself into a very serious argument of saying there are loopholes to change. Can you trust such a person? A person you give a job to do the constitution, then turns up to say, the same document I wrote has got huge luggage, a burden called muzigo. Now, why can't you carry the muzigo yourselves? Why can't you carry it? Why are Kenyans saying punguza muzigo? It's because most of the Kenyans elect thieves. They have elected thieves. You support thieves. Talk about a thief. Put the word thief on your Facebook now. They will tell you you are now talking about so and so. You are now pointing so and so. You write your thing on your Facebook about Ero Dam, Kimirero Dam. They say now you are attacking our man. You are attacking our people. You know, we elect thieves ourselves. And then we come around and seek help. We have elected them. We have put them in a position of theft. They are thieves. You know they are going, they didn't have what they had. So today when I see people complaining about the MPs, who elects these guys? It is us. We elected them. Then they go and make the money. They increase the bills. They put up a huge bill. Then you say, we are sorry. That's another topic for the day. It is coming to 12 midday here in Nairobi. The recap of the breaking news is that demonstrations in Zimbabwe are underway, and so far there is a serious running battles between the police and the demonstrators right in Harare. Let's come back to the topic of the day. And before the topic of the day, I want us to take a short break to play a clip about the judiciary, what it is, and it is plenty of it from the Africa School of Thought. Thank you. Good afternoon, viewers. I want to take a few minutes in the Africa School of Thought. I want to say a few points regarding the situation of the Chief Justice in the Republic of Kenya. The Chief Justice is part of the governance of the people of Kenya. He is one arm of the governance of the Republic of Kenya. The Chief Justice has never convened or tried to convene a meeting between the President, the Speaker of National Assembly, and himself to find out the weakest link in the fight in the governance of the people of Kenya. It is therefore very shameful for the whole Chief Justice of the Republic of Kenya to use a platform, external platform, to announce a regime change proceeds using the platforms of international civil society to dismember the government of the Republic of Kenya. As a Pan-African, I feel sorry and saddened by the events that are taking place in the judiciary of the Republic of Kenya. The president or the executive has done its best. It has given the funding that is needed to fight corruption. Every time the agencies that fight corruption arrange, indict, and deliver a suspect in the courts of the Republic of Kenya, the same judiciary that the Chief Justice represents, the same judiciary that the Chief Justice says it is very perfect, releases these people, at times on flimsy reasons, blocks the route of justice, obstructs justice. The case of the former Deputy Chief Justice, Lady Mwiru, who was found who should have taken a plea, but because of the problems that the judiciary has and the weaknesses, the incompetences that the judiciary has, the Lady Justice Mwiru was allowed to petition the DCI and DPP's application and a charge. She never took a charge, a plea in the normal courts. Of course, the events are much bigger than what we see today. It is sorry state that the Chief Justice is the one who can mention about the failure, yet the word failure is actually associated with the judiciary of the Republic of Kenya. Everybody in the judiciary knows, every Kenyan, young or old, knows that there is a problem with the Chief Justice. I take one example. For the Chief Justice to talk about the nullified elections, that dynasties collect themselves in kingdoms, in business entrepreneurs win an election, shows to you that he has something that is against the current administration of President Uhuru Muigai Kenyatta. I therefore call upon the international community not to listen to the side that actually weakened the fight against corruption in Kenya, but help the Kenyan people to fight corruption. Because the weakest link, which all of us know, is the judiciary in Kenya. If the Chief Justice was pleasing the civil society funders, the NGOs that gathered in Oxford, let them hear this message, that it is him and him alone. It is his incompetency, the lack of direction, the lack of leadership, the poor leadership qualities, the lack of pointing out the mistakes in law. The law itself that the Chief Justice talks about is the one to recommend which type of law. He can also suggest to the other two arms of government that the laws in Kenya surrounding cases of corruption are weak. But as usual, he has been a weakest link, remains a weakest link, who is plotting, who is planning, who is trying to execute a foreign instigated plan against the Jubilee government. Thank you very much, viewers. That is a statement as far as the situation of Kenya is concerned. The Chief Justice, therefore, is plotting a coup, a constitutional coup, because he is trying to blackmail the leadership of the Republic of Kenya. Thank you very much, viewers. God bless you. To the second part and the final part of our show, which touches on the topical discussion. The topic of discussion this afternoon, it is exactly touches judiciary in Africa. How does the judiciary in your country help you? How does it operate? How does it do its business? That's the question that we want to answer. And we want people to engage us. Dennis Okero, thank you very much for coming in. I want us to engage each other. How does the judiciary in Kenya, for example, how has it handled the cases? It has done so badly in previously until a few of the judicial officers stood up, like a Mumbi Justice Mumbi, who made a ruling, Justice Chief Magistrate of Mugambi, Atandi, all these people in the judiciary, few of them have stood up and showed us the way we can handle business in Africa. But the judiciary in Africa mainly is a sad case. It's a sad case simply because they are not human beings. They are human beings. But there is a lot of looking out of state capture. There's a syndrome that is planted within the judiciary. What can we do in the judiciary that can capture and annoy the executive? That is the type of judiciary we have in Africa. In Kenya, we have a similar judiciary that looks at the executive as their enemies. And yet these three institutions are supposed to interrelate, work independently, but relate to each other for the sake of governance and the good governance of a state called Kenya. In Kenya, today, Kenya is going to come to darkness this afternoon. A case of Akasha. The sentencing of Akasha is today, this afternoon. This evening, which is 6:30 p.m. East African time. If you tune your television station right, we shall try to bring that coverage straight from New York courtroom, where the judiciary of Kenya failed to convince Kenyans that these gentlemen were drug dealers, drug barons, they were killing people. Today, a foreign court has found guilty and is going to sentence one of the Kenyans of Akasha origin, which is an indictment to Maraga, which is an indictment to the judges, which is an indictment to the prosecutors, which is an indictment to the defense lawyers. Defense lawyers in our judiciary play a part, become defense fixers. They fix the cases. Instead of using the law, being advocates of the court, they are lawyers to defend a court, the judiciary. They are not lawyers to lie to the court. Look at the Akasha case today that is coming up. Kenyans, we feel ashamed as Africans for an international court to condemn and sentence a man whom you have been protecting for all this time. Maraga said the judges were very innocent. According to the files that we have obtained in the United States of America, in the FBI archives, in all this that related to this case, several judges in Kenya took part in releasing these guys, took part in killing more people. You can release this guy and avoid sentencing him. But the type of drugs that kill people in the streets of Kenya and all Africa are huge. How many people take drugs and die? How many people are killed because they have failed to pay a drug baron? Several of them. That's why the judge in the New York court found found, the judge in the New York court found Akasha guilty. And guilty, he will be sentenced. It's not a lie. Most of you Kenyans, when you see me on this television, you think I tell lies. No, I have evidence. I have looked through the case. I've been searching behind all the scenes to get piece up evidence to bring you a clear picture. And if you want, hold on for that 12 series documentary. It is going to make you very annoyed as a Kenyan to say these are the things that happen to our country. For someone to be sentenced hugely like that, it is very pathetic. It's very pathetic. It is something that we should not be happy about, but something we must always, get annoyed about, because it doesn't give us the good, publicity. It is sad, therefore, for us to watch a situation in the Kenyan courts. For example, what is it difficult? Look at this one. There is something that I want to say to my brother. The Kenyan courts themselves have a problem. The criminal justice system of the Kenyan people has a problem. But the judge, Chief Justice Maraga, cannot suggest. That's why I call Maraga incompetent, not able to deliver, not able to guide this court, not able to detect mistakes, not able to convince the public that the money that he's looking for is the best money to be used on improving the judicial service system. The case of Jackton Ojwang, professor, it should have not come to the judicial service system. It should have been left. It should have been discarded. Does Maraga have the credibility to run the court? The answer is no. Does Deputy Chief Justice Mwiru have the credibility to run the court? The answer is no. These guys should not run the court. These guys should just step aside, get out. How will Maraga work with Jackton Ojwang? If I were Maraga, I recommended the case. It has been found not true. Normally, a judge resigns because he's going to work with the money he wanted to finish. It goes back to all these links of a failed judicial coup that Maraga had actually instigated to wipe out the government of President Uhuru Kenyatta. When he went to the United Kingdom to lecture about the systems in Kenya, you saw what he talked in the UK. It is a judge who is determined to make sure that this Africa does not improve at all. Viewers, I give you several of occasions. The DCI worked so hard to bring evidence. The criminal justice system of Kenya says every Kenyan must have bail. You steal on Friday, you are locked on Saturday and Sunday. You come back home with your wife sleeping in the same bed on Monday. Don't you think there is need to change this criminal justice system such that people who have stolen can actually stay some time to feel the pinch of a prison before they are released? I leave it to you. I leave it to you, and I summarize here and tell you exactly that Africa, judiciary in Africa, most of it has problems, except maybe South Africa, where you find the courts try to balance the actions of different perspectives. It has solutions must be found. I want to take another break, and when we come back, we would like to see the values of what can be done to change the courts in Kenya. Don't go away. Let's bring another clip. I want to call upon the people of Abazonia today, wherever you are in the diaspora in Abazonia itself, that in a struggle you are bound to have divisions. But divisions should not divert you from the main focus, the main challenge. We have struggled to expose the happenings, the human rights abuses in Abazonia. The army has killed hundreds and hundreds of thousands, burnt houses of people, internet was cut off, schools were closed, dispensaries, hospitals were burnt down. Abazonians should not be intimidated by Paul Robia. It is not upon the leaders of Abazonia, because I am not from Abazonia, but I've played a pivotal role in making sure that I loud out the voices, I put out the call, I call upon AU, EU, United Nations, Human Rights Watch, Amnesty International. Many of them have listened to some of the things that I say here, and they have come at last. America, United States of America, is slowly moving towards giving the Abazonian people the dignity they deserve. I therefore call upon the leaders and the leadership of the Abazonian people to unite for a purpose. The unity of purpose is paramount, as opposed to disunity, which has nothing but only produces ego that we have seen in South Sudan. What has killed South Sudan is not because they don't have the money, the minerals, the resources. Is ego between Riek Machar and Salva Kiir. We would not like to see that ego come to the people of Abazonia, the leadership of Abazonia. I call upon Samuel Sako, Akanga, Miran, and Eko to unite and talk with one voice on international scene that will bring about the peace, the tranquility that you yearn for since 1961, when the resolution 1608 was abandoned by the United Nations General Assembly and Abazonia was annexed by the Cameroon government by then. I call upon you, my brothers, to pick up the unity call and free your people without disintegration. Thank you. Thank you very much. This is our final part of the show. We shall use the 90 minutes to finish up what we started. First, we touched on the legacy of President Uhuru Muigai Kenyatta. It has obstacles, it has challenges, but it has successes. That's the point. There is no shortcut. We have to have a legacy. The legacy trend also continues to do the same. We keep on watching, counting the time that one day and one day alone, a destiny will be found. Secondly, we looked at the events on African continent. One of the events in African continent was very clearly the events in Zimbabwe, the events in Nigeria, the events in Amazonia, the events in Libya, and the events in Uganda. The events in Khartoum, events that make the world ask as to why we have suffered and have suffered so much. Next, we touched on the judiciary of Republic of Kenya, or the judiciary in Africa, which has been our topical discussion. We looked at all angles. We looked at Acacia case, which is going to come today at 6:30 East African time. Tune in our station and other stations as we shall film direct from New York through our satellite in Germany to pick the proceedings that will be in the New York when the sentencing takes place today at 6:30 p.m. But all this is not very good because we are not beaming it to laugh. How did the entire judiciary of Kenya fail to convict these guys? Only the United States of America was able to convict them. How? How? Who in the judiciary fixed the cases? Who of the defense lawyers fixed the cases? Who were the judges that were mentioned by the Acacia as having been the main conduits of making sure that justice was not done at the coast and in Kenya? It's a shame, it's an indictment to the judiciary of the Republic of Kenya today. Finally, we want to take this opportunity to thank you all. We want to take this opportunity to make you engage with us. Continue watching our programs. Next week we shall come. Our programs are lined up. I think the producer can bring them up. There's that clip of all the programs we have so that people can choose which ones. The clip, all the programs from Matanga Africa perspective, bring them now. Let's take this opportunity to tell people that we shall talk about the things that touch about Africa. I now want to read your comments, and then in the next 5 minutes, call it a day, and next week we shall be back with a big bang in our discussions. Thank you very much, all of you. Let's play the clips of our programs that we have right now.
Peace must be our goal and our guide. And all that we strive for as a human family, dignity and hope, progress and prosperity, depends on peace. But peace depends on us.
I go? Thank you very much, viewers. You can now see for yourself. That is the lineup of all Take Time production team. Don't move it too much. Let people see. That is our show. All our shows. Take a glimpse, take a photo, take what they call, I don't know. Bring it back again for the people to see. So that people can get all the programs, all our shows. Those are ours. You can see them well lined up together with our sister company, the South Cameroon Broadcasting Corporation. We shall resume no more services, no more discussions in the world. And we are right now on it. Those are the pictures. Punchline TV 2018-2019 programs. They are here. The punch call, the map, my opinion. We have now added the punch, the Africa business, Good Morning Africa, Frontline Africa, which looks at the security matters of Africa. We have all these programs lined up here for you. We want to thank you very, very much. We want to take this opportunity to thank you for having listened to us. It's 12:30 in Kenya. It is 10:30 in Germany. Aluta Container. This station, therefore, is for Africa, by Africa, with Africa. Ciao.